16 years after Emperor Marcus Aurelius died, Rome is now being led by two corrupt twin emperors, Geta and Caracalla. The ideal Rome that Aurelius dreamed of is falling apart because of their ruthless behavior, causing chaos and the slow decline of the empire. On the other hand, in a peaceful kingdom of Numidia in North Africa, Hanno lives a calm life with his wife Arishat. Suddenly, sirens go off, warning them that the Roman army is coming. Smoke from the city shows that danger is near. Hanno and Arishat quickly put on their armor and join their fellow citizens to listen to their leader, Jugurtha, who make the plan for the upcoming battle. Before they part ways, they exchange rings and promise to protect each other. Determined, they stand on the wall together, where Hanno gives an inspiring speech to motivate the defenders. As the Roman ships, led by General Acacius, get closer to the shore, the Numidians quickly start attacking with their catapults and bows. The Roman ships get badly damaged, but Acacius doesn't give up and tells his forces to keep moving forward, fighting back with their own catapults and archers. The battle is chaotic, with fires starting on both sides and many people losing their lives within minutes. When the Roman ships arrive at the fortress, they set up platforms to start the attack. General Acacius leads the charge with determination, killing Numidian soldiers effectively. Meanwhile, Hanno is equally skilled, quickly taking down Roman soldiers. In the middle of the chaos, the Romans move forward with strong shields protecting them. From above, Arishat shoots arrows skillfully, giving important cover to her fellow soldiers who are fighting intensely below. When Acacius sees Arishat, he orders his archers to shoot at her, and she dies tragically. Hanno sees her fall into the sea and is then hit from behind by a Roman soldier, knocking him out, and he too falls into the sea. And when he wakes up, heartbroken, he finds Arishat's body nearby. Filled with grief, he removes the arrow from her chest before the Romans capture him. After the battle, Acacius takes control of the city for Rome, and his soldiers burn the bodies. All the surviving citizens, including Hanno, are marked with hot brands to show they are now slaves. The captives are then put onto ships headed for Rome. During the trip, Hanno sees that Jugurtha is seriously injured and helps to bandage his wound. Jugurtha, thinking he doesn't have much time left, recalls the day he found Hanno as a lost child in the desert. Just then, Hanno remembers his childhood. He lived happily with his family until the Romans attacked, and his mother had to send him away to keep him safe. Soon, the ships arrive at Ostia, a busy port in Rome, where General Acacius is celebrated as a hero. The twin emperors give him laurels and promise him a break from war to spend time with his wife, but they also announce their big plans to conquer Persia and India. The newly marked slaves are taken to Antium near Rome, where Macrinus oversees their tough gladiator training. Jugurtha, Hanno, and other captives are put into a practice arena, where they have to fight off a group of wild baboons. Hidden soldiers shoot darts at the baboons, making them go into a violent rage. The angry baboons jump onto the slaves and attack them fiercely. Jugurtha, accepting his fate, kneels down and refuses to fight as the baboons get closer. Hanno, trying to save his friend, can't act fast enough, and Jugurtha is killed. When a baboon attacks Hanno, he cleverly fights back by pushing his chains into its mouth and biting its leg. Then, he strangles the baboon to death with his chains. This brave act impresses Macrinus, who decides to buy Hanno for his skills as a gladiator. Afterward, Hanno and his companions are taken to the barracks, where they join Macrinus's other slaves, who tease Hanno by making baboon noises. After a small meal, the new recruits are brought to Macrinus for evaluation. Hanno stays silent, leading Macrinus to tell the gladiator trainer, Vigo, to challenge him. At first, Hanno seems to struggle against Vigo's strong skills, but he soon gets better, showing his impressive abilities and winning the fight. After the fight, Hanno is sent to the private chamber, where Macrinus pulls Hanno aside and explains that he chooses gladiators based on their inner anger, which Hanno has a lot of. Hanno finally speaks up and says his only goal is to kill Acacius. Macrinus, interested in Hanno's determination, tells him that he can get his revenge, but only if he wins many battles in the Roman arena. Meanwhile, Acacius meets up with his wife, Lucilla, who is the daughter of the former emperor. He tells her that he is getting tired of the twins' harsh rule, and they start planning a rebellion to bring back Rome's past glory. Later on, Macrinus takes Hanno to a grand banquet hosted by Senator Thraex. The main event of the evening is a brutal fight where Hanno and one of Thraex's slaves are forced to fight to the death with swords in front of the watching emperors. At first, Hanno doesn't want to kill his opponent, so he uses furniture and other objects to try to stop him. But since the other man keeps fighting hard and won't give up, Hanno has no choice but to kill him with his sword. Gaeta, who is watching, is very impressed with Hanno's fighting skills and asks where he comes from. Hanno recites Virgil's poetry, revealing his Roman education. Luckily, the emperors enjoy his recitation and are excited to see him fight in the arena. After the party, Macrinus scolds Hanno for being bold in front of the emperors and asks where he learned to speak so well. Hanno explains that he learned various stories from a Roman prisoner his city once held, but Macrinus is doubtful. To Hanno's surprise, he gets 2 coins as a reward for the fight and learns that if gladiators win enough, they can buy their freedom. That night, under the cover of darkness, Lucilla and Acacius meet with a small group of senators to discuss their bold plan to free Rome from the control of the twin emperors. Acacius reassures them that the Roman army remains loyal, gaining the senators' support. A few days later, Hanno and the other slaves are taken to Rome for the grand gladiator games in the Colosseum. They are amazed by the impressive buildings and statues, but also notice the stark difference with the poor citizens on the streets. As the games near, Macrinus and Thraex meet and agree to double their bets, making the brutal event even more intense. At the Colosseum, the emperors formally welcome Acacius and Lucilla to the main seats, while the crowd cheers loudly, chanting Acacius' name with excitement. After a short but inspiring speech from Acacius, the slaves are brought into the arena. There, the gladiator champion Glycio makes a dramatic entrance riding a rhinoceros. Hanno quickly takes the lead, coming up with a plan to avoid the rhino's powerful charges, showing his smart tactics and determination to survive. At first, the plan works well, but things quickly go wrong when one of the slaves is knocked down and injured, making him move slower. Glycio quickly traps him with bolas, and the rhino kills him with its horn. In a desperate move, Hanno rubs dirt through his hands, reminding Lucilla of her former lover, Maximus. Taking the chance, Hanno throws dirt at the rhino, distracting it before jumping aside. The confused rhino crashes into the wall, knocking Glycio off its back and injuring him. Even though he's hurt, Glycio is still determined and chases Hanno with great energy. As the men fight fiercely, Gaeta remembers the deep quote Hanno said at the party, and Lucilla sees it as another clue. Glycio and Hanno keep fighting hard, grabbing any weapons they can find in the arena. When Glycio knocks Hanno down, Caracalla calls for Hanno's blood, while Lucilla begs for mercy. Gaeta gives a thumbs up, signaling to spare Hanno, but Hanno refuses to accept Roman mercy and keeps fighting with new energy. With a few quick moves, Hanno stabs Glycio, making the crowd chant for Glycio's death. This time, Gaeta gives a thumbs down, and Hanno cuts off Glycio's head with 2 swords, making the crowd cheer loudly. After the game, Dr. Ravi takes care of Hanno's wounds. On the other hand, Lucilla goes back to her private room and thinks about the day's events. The quote from Virgil and Hanno's action with the dirt make her realize something surprising. Hanno is actually Lucius, the son she had with Maximus. When Lucius was a child, he was the rightful heir to the throne, and to keep him safe from those who wanted to gain power by killing him, Lucilla sent him away to ensure he survived. Lucilla feels overwhelmed with emotion and cries when she realizes her long-lost son has come back. She invites Macrinus for a meal, and while they eat, she casually asks him about his slaves. Macrinus senses there's more behind her questions. Later, Macrinus secretly investigates and finds out that Lucilla once had a son who mysteriously disappeared. There were rumors that Lucilla's late husband was not the child's father because he preferred the company of men. This new information starts to make sense to Macrinus, increasing his suspicions. As night falls, Lucilla sneaks through a hidden tunnel and meets with a trusted senator, who secretly leads her into the gladiator's cells. There they meet, and Hanno recognizes Lucilla, but firmly says that Lucius no longer exists. He is now only Hanno. Despite her efforts to explain, Hanno gets angry and forces her to leave. When she returns home, a distressed Lucilla tells Acacius that her son is still alive and asks for his help. Unbeknownst to them, a maid overhears their conversation. The next day, Hanno trains hard with the other slaves, but Vigo, who is bitter, dismisses the group and makes Hanno work the tough rowing machine alone. By the end of the day, Hanno's hands are blistered and sore, so Ravi treats his wounds while telling his own story. Ravi, who is free and could have gone back to his homeland, decided to stay in Rome after meeting a woman and starting a new life with her. The next gladiator battle takes place on ships, with the arena turned into a sea full of sharks. When the fight starts, flaming arrows are shot, and anyone hit by them quickly becomes food for the sharks. Hanno tells his team to keep rowing, and as they get close to the enemy ship, they skillfully break the enemy's oars. Even though the deadly arrows kill more people, Hanno's crew stays strong. With their opponents unable to move, Hanno's ship moves forward and crashes into the enemy ship, breaking it in half. Then Hanno and his men jump onto the enemy ship and quickly defeat their opponents one by one. As the broken ship is pushed against the arena wall, Hanno sees an opportunity, grabs a crossbow, and aims at Cassius. But a nearby fighter shoves him, causing the shot to miss and land between the twin emperors, who see it as a threat. After the intense battle, the crowd chants Hanno's name again, and Vigo confronts Hanno about his daring crossbow move. But Hanno calmly replied that Vigo should be glad the arrow wasn't for him. Meanwhile, Lucilla's maid tells all the hidden secrets to Thrax. Later, when Macrinus goes to Thrax's house to get the money from their bets, he claims the property now belongs to him. Instead of giving money, Thrax gives him valuable information. A group of rebels is planning to overthrow the twin emperors, but their plan is on hold until a certain gladiator is rescued from the arena. That night, palace soldiers come to Lucilla's home to arrest her. At the same time, in the gladiator's quarters, Cassius and his men secretly sneak in, intending to free Hanno. But the emperor's soldiers were waiting there, and they quickly shot Cassius's men with arrows, and capturing Cassius. The captured couple is brought before the twin emperors, and Geta scolds them for their betrayal. Cassius laughs in response. Angry, Caracalla grabs a sword to kill Cassius, but Geta stops him, saying their punishment should be public. After locking the couple in a cell, Macrinus suggests that crucifixion, which is for thieves, wouldn't be right for a hero like Cassius. Instead, he proposes sending Cassius to the arena, which would keep the emperors popular with the people. For the next gladiator fight, more soldiers are placed to guard the important seats, and Lucilla is chained up. Cassius is the first gladiator in the arena, fighting against the elite Praetorian Guard soldiers. Even though he's outnumbered, Cassius fights bravely, getting injured several times. Despite the odds, he shows his exceptional skills by defeating each soldier with his sword, proving himself to be a great warrior. Next, Hanno is sent into the arena to fight Cassius, and the crowd is divided on who to support. Both men are very skilled fighters, and they fight fiercely for a long time, with neither backing down. As Cassius starts to get tired, he stops the fight and reveals that he knows Hanno's true identity. He drops his swords to show he is surrendering. Geta immediately signals for Cassius to be executed, but before Hanno can strike the final blow, Cassius declares his true love for Lucilla and says he would have been willing to sacrifice his life for Maximus. This causes Hanno to drop his sword too, making the emperors very angry. They order the archers to execute Cassius, and arrows quickly end his life. Hanno takes this chance to ask the crowd if this is really how Rome treats its heroes. The crowd gets angry at his words and starts to boo the emperors. So seeing the anger of the people, the emperors quickly leave the Colosseum. Later on, Macrinus confronts Hanno and asks why he didn't kill Cassius. Hanno says he believes a better Rome is possible, but Macrinus calls this a foolish dream and reminds Hanno that he's just a tool. Outside, the city falls into chaos as people riot, demanding the twin emperors be overthrown and starting fires in the streets. In the royal chambers, Caracalla and Geta have a fierce argument about what to do next, with Caracalla angrily blaming Geta for their problems. In a fit of rage, Geta throws water in Caracalla's face. So Caracalla storms out. Macrinus follows him and tries to manipulative him. Macrinus warns Caracalla that Geta plans to accuse him publicly, urging Caracalla to strike first. Frustrated by their power struggle, Caracalla grabs a dagger and slashes Geta's hand. Geta stops fighting and pleads with Caracalla, saying he loves him, causing Caracalla to hesitate, but Macrinus seizes the moment, guiding Caracalla's hand to slash Geta's neck and kill him. The next morning, a sad Lucilla visits Hanno and gives him Maximus's ring, symbolizing their shared legacy and her hope for the future. In return, Hanno expresses his sympathy, and they reconcile with a heartfelt hug. On the other hand, Caracalla becomes the new ruler and jokingly makes his pet monkey his first consul and Macrinus his second, and Macrinus shows Geta's severed head to the senators and says he needs more power to protect their government, leading them to elect him as the leader of the Praetorian Guard. Later, Macrinus visits Lucilla and reveals that he was once a slave under her father. He then shares his bold plan to eliminate the imperial family and make himself the emperor. Meanwhile, Hanno gives Maximus's ring to Ravi, asking him to take it to Acacius's army in Ostia. And before leaving, Ravi secretly gives Hanno the cell keys. Afterward, Ravi cleverly avoids several guards to reach the general, who immediately promises his support when he sees the ring, recognizing it as a symbol from Lucius, the Prince of Rome. Back at the Colosseum, Vigo announces that this will be Hanno's final battle and shows the wooden sword of freedom, which Hanno can win by protecting his mother. Just then, Hanno opens the cell door and overpowers Vigo, killing him with the same sword meant to symbolize his freedom. Inspired, the other slaves break out of their cells and quickly kill any guards who try to stop them, starting a full-scale rebellion. Then, he gives an inspiring speech to the slaves, motivating them to fight for their freedom. And when he enters the arena, he finds Lucilla tied to a post, surrounded by rebel senators, while the crowd chants his name. Royal soldiers come into the arena, but the crowd boos them. Before the soldiers can attack, the slaves rush in to help Hanno, evening the odds. A fierce battle starts, and Caracalla is excited, while Macrinus, frustrated, orders a commander to bring in the cavalry. They send a few soldiers who quickly enter the arena and kill slaves and senators without mercy. The crowd panics, and chaos breaks out when a guard accidentally kills a spectator with an arrow. This event triggers a full-scale riot. In the chaos, Macrinus takes the chance and kills Caracalla. Meanwhile, in the arena, just as Hanno reaches Lucilla, Macrinus shoots an arrow that hits her in the heart. With her dying breaths, Lucilla encourages Hanno to keep fighting for a better Rome before she dies from her wound. After that, Macrinus rides off on a horse to join the army at the city gates, making Hanno steal a horse and chase after him. Within minutes, the Praetorian Guard meets Acacius's army, and Hanno stands in front of Macrinus and boldly declares that he is Lucius, the rightful heir to the throne. He tackles Macrinus, knocking him off his horse, and they start a fierce sword fight. Macrinus shows he's a strong opponent, skillfully breaking Hanno's sword and temporarily blinding him by throwing dirt in his face. Then Macrinus pushes Hanno into the river and tries to stab him frantically, but the strikes just bounce off Hanno's armor. In a brief vision of the afterlife, Hanno is strengthened by his mother's last words. He comes back to the surface with new strength, punches Macrinus hard, and takes back his sword. In a quick, decisive move, he cuts off Macrinus's arm and fatally slashes his stomach. As Macrinus's dead body floats away, Hanno remembers his grandfather's dream for a perfect Rome. So Hanno speaks to both armies, asking them to come together for the good of Rome. Inspired, the soldiers stop fighting and unite in support. Later, Lucius returns to the Colosseum, feeling sad about his parents' death.